Hi, I'm Damien, this is Enneagram Life, and today I'm going to talk about a time when I knew someone was an Enneagram Type 5. And the main reasons I knew they were an Enneagram Type 5 was because, one, their selfishness, and two, their technocraticness. So, technocraticness, that means they were a technocrat. So they were interested in specific, discrete pieces of information, pieces of data, rather than say holistic knowledge. So I met this guy at a fan group for a particular writer, and we all met at this bar, and he was part of the fan group, and so was I. And so at some stage I was standing next to him, and so I started talking to him. And I could tell pretty soon into the conversation that this guy wasn't interested in anything about me, which is pretty selfish. And he like, I would tell a story or speak about a particular subject, and he'd ask questions about particular details of that story, of that subject, particular facts, but he wasn't interested in getting to know me personally as an individual. What he was really interested in was talking about himself. Pretty selfish. And the main topic he talked about was his health, which is a pretty selfish topic. Anyway, so he was an engineer. And that in itself is kind of a hint that he might be an Enneagram Type 5, because on average, Enneagram Type, well, to be an engineer, you need to study for a lot of years by yourself, alone. And Enneagram Type 5s, on average, compared to most Enneagram types, are better able to do that, to study by themselves alone. And so he was an engineer, and one of his hobbies was cycling, and he really liked talking about that. That day, he'd been on a 3-hour bike ride. That also is another hint that, he could be an Enneagram Type 5. To do a 3-hour bike ride, to be able to do that, that takes a lot of discipline to build up to that. And Enneagram Type 5s, on average, have more of that kind of discipline than most other Enneagram types. And so he was talking about these bike rides, and he had a bunch of different bike rides that he regularly does. One of them normally took him 9 minutes, this particular bike ride. But then it started to take him 9 minutes and 20 seconds. And so he's telling me this, and he talks about how, he knew that there must be something wrong with his health, because it was taking him 9 minutes and 20 seconds now, whereas before it took him 9 minutes. And in his mind, you could tell that this was not something he questioned. He knew there was something wrong with his health because of this extra 20 seconds. And this was of great concern to him. You could see the panic in his face. So he goes to his doctor, and he tells his doctor. And so his doctor does all these tests and says, you're in perfect health, there's nothing wrong with you. But he can't take that. He knows in his mind that there's something wrong with him. There has to be, because it's taking him 9 minutes and 20 seconds to do this ride, whereas before it took him 9 minutes. And so he goes online, he does all this research, and this is very technocratic, to do all this research and find out about all these other tests you can do to check your health. And so he goes back to the doctor and says, can I do this test? Can I do that test? But his doctor doesn't recommend he does any of these tests, because his doctor says, we've already done these other tests and they all came back fine. But because of the private health system and the fact that he has the money, he can get all these extra tests done. And so he gets all these extra tests done, and they're all coming back fine, saying there's nothing wrong with him. But eventually he gets one particular test done which says he's low in potassium. And he says this like it's this big triumph that he's discovered that he's low in potassium. He's bragging about it, and it's like as if he saved his own life. And it's such an Enneagram Type 5 brag, to brag that you've discovered that you're low in potassium. And so he's going on about how important it is to do all these extra tests, because your doctor won't let you do them. or your doctor doesn't, your doctor won't suggest that you do them. But it's so important to do all these extra tests if you want to live into your 80s and 90s, if you want to see your grandkids grow up. And he says that, if you want to live in your 80s and 90s, if you want to see your grandkids grow up, these aren't just throwaway statements to if you want to live to a ripe old age. These are determined goals that he set for himself. There's nothing wrong with wanting to live to an old age, but the way he said it, you can see these determined, selfish goals where he just wants more. He wants more life and more years, more health, more knowledge. But it's not actually knowledge. He wants more data because he can't tell the difference. The difference between wisdom and data, knowledge and wisdom, or information. There's a big difference there, and he has all this information and he just wants more and more and more, but he doesn't have the wisdom or the knowledge to realize that, to say to himself, hey, I'm 56 years old and I can do these 3-hour bike rides. That must mean I'm in pretty good health, but he can't see that. All he can see is the fact that, hey, it's taking me 20 seconds longer on this, what used to be a 9-minute bike ride. And that's just flipping him out. And he's just focused in on that because of his selfishness, focused in on this piece of technocratic data just because he's so selfish and he's determined to get more of his health and life. And, he can't see the fact that this one particular test, after all these other tests were coming back that he's totally fine, suggested that, hey, maybe you're low in potassium. He just flips out on that, and that just, he can't see all the results of all the other tests. And so it's all this technocraticness and this selfishness combining and feeding. Technocraticness feeding off of selfishness feeding off the technocraticness. This want for more. And I can see this in him, the selfishness and the technocraticness. And that's what I was thinking to myself, damn, this dude's an Enneagram Type 5. Anyway, it's the 4th of December 2022. Thank you.